The courtroom was heavy with silence, the type that pressed down on one's chest like the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. Every seat was filled, all eyes fixed on the man at the center of it all. Captain Adrian Wolfe sat in his wheelchair, dressed in his military uniform adorned with medals that glinted under the fluorescent lights. His hand gripped the leash of his dog by his side. Rex, a German shepherd with a calm yet watchful demeanor. To everyone else, Rex looked like any other military working dog, but to Adrian, he was so much more. He was family. Adrian's jaw tightened as the judge addressed him, reminding him that this might be his final chance to speak. The army had decided Rex was to be reassigned, considered government property, necessary for another mission. After years of risking their lives together, the thought of losing Rex now felt like a cruel betrayal. As he adjusted his grip on the leash, his hands trembled, his voice barely steady enough to speak. "Your Honor," he began, his tone raw with emotion. "Rex isn't just a military asset. He's saved my life in ways no one here could ever understand. In the field, he pulled me from danger, shielded me from gunfire, even warned me of traps before I could see them. When I came home, when I couldn't even face myself in the mirror, Rex was there. He gave me a reason to keep going. Please, don't take him from me." The room remained utterly still, the air thick with unspoken sympathy. Some spectators dabbed at their eyes while others exchanged glances, a mix of pity and outrage. The judge's face remained neutral, his eyes studying Adrian for a long moment before leaning forward to deliver his ruling. But before the words could leave his mouth, something unexpected happened. Rex stood abruptly, yanking the leash free from Adrian's trembling hands. The dog moved toward the judge, barking sharply, his voice echoing through the courtroom. The crowd gasped, and the bailiff stepped forward instinctively. Though Rex showed no signs of aggression, his barks were insistent and purposeful, as if he were trying to communicate something urgent. "Rex!" Adrian called, his voice breaking with panic. Deep down, he knew he had seen this behavior before, countless times on the battlefield. Rex wasn't just barking, he was alerting them. The murmurs in the courtroom grew louder. "What's wrong with the dog?" someone whispered from the back row. Adrian's chest tightened as he wheeled himself forward, his voice trembling. "He's not just barking. He only does this when there's danger. He's trying to warn us about something." The judge froze, his gavel forgotten in his hand, eyes locked on Rex. The room fell silent again, except for the dog's barks echoing like a heartbeat. Whatever Rex sensed, it was bigger than all of them, and for the first time that day, Adrian felt a flicker of hope. This wasn't just a goodbye. Something bigger was about to unfold. Thor's relentless barking cut through the tension like a blade. The room was silent, every person fixated on Rex, whose demeanor had shifted dramatically. Adrian felt a rush of adrenaline, a reminder of the battlefield. "Rex, heel," he called, his voice firm but trembling. Rex briefly glanced back, his gaze sharp, as if to reassure Adrian that he was in control. But then, without hesitation, Rex returned his focus to the judge, pacing in short, deliberate steps. The judge was visibly unnerved, glancing sideways at the bailiffs. "Control your dog, or I will have to," he began, but Adrian interrupted. "Your Honor, Rex isn't misbehaving. He's trained to detect threats, bombs, explosives, danger. He wouldn't act like this unless he felt something was wrong." The room fell silent again as Adrian's words settled in, shifting the atmosphere from skepticism to a creeping sense of dread. Before anyone could respond, Rex suddenly stopped barking, the abrupt silence jarring. His body went completely rigid, and he turned toward the far end of the courtroom, ears perked and a low growl rising from his chest. "What is it?" Adrian whispered, fear gripping him. The bailiffs moved closer, their eyes darting around the room, unsure of what to do. "That's it," Adrian urged, narrowing his eyes. "He's onto something." But the larger bailiff shook his head, looking skeptical. "It's just a dog," he muttered, trying to assure himself. "No," Adrian replied firmly, Rex knows. We need to evacuate. Yet, as the words left his lips, a loud clang shattered the tension, echoing from the dark hallway outside the courtroom. The combined instincts of all present were rattled. The smaller bailiff stepped forward, flashlight trembling as he gingerly approached the door. "There's something out there," he mumbled, his voice barely a whisper. Every heartbeat thudded in Adrian's chest as he pulled Rex closer. "What are you waiting for? Get everyone out." The judge, trying to restore order, shouted, "Everyone stay calm." But panic spread like wildfire. Many moved toward the exit while others clutched their belongings, fear written across their faces. Adrian's instincts screamed that they were running out of time. Rex kept prowling, fixated on the door. Then it happened. The door swung open slowly, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows. "What the hell was that?" someone whispered, apprehension mounting in the room. And no sooner had the words been spoken than a shadow moved fluidly past the edge of the doorframe. An icy chill washed over Adrian, who knew too well this wasn't just some ordinary threat. He gripped Rex's leash tighter, his breath quickening as the unknown figure stepped into the light. "Identify yourself," the larger bailiff shouted, weapon raised. With calm confidence that seemed entirely inappropriate for the situation, the intruder allowed his hood to fall back, revealing a smirk that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I come in peace," he said smoothly, though no one believed a word. "What do you want?" Adrian demanded, fury and fear mingling within him. The intruder tilted his head, a condescending look on his face. "I only want the dog. Hand him over, and no one gets hurt." The room erupted in chaos. Adrenaline surged through Adrian. "You think you can just take him?" he shouted, determination flaring. "Rex is my partner. You'll have to get through me first." For a moment, the air in the courtroom felt electric, amplifying the tension. The intruder's amused expression hardened. "Very well." He snapped his fingers, and from the darkness emerged two more figures, each wielding weapons that glinted coldly under the fluorescent lights. The fear in the audience intensified as they inched forward. Adrian's heart pounded wildly, knowing he had to act fast. But before he could devise a plan, the room was plunged into darkness. Lights flickered ominously. The sounds of chaos reached a fever pitch. In the void of darkness, Adrian felt a familiar, reassuring weight at his side. "Rex," he whispered, knowing the dog would be his only protection. A moment later, the lights flickered back on, illuminating the courtroom in stark relief. Adrian's eyes darted to the figures who had advanced. They were no longer obscured. It was as if they had stepped out of a nightmare. The judge was frozen, fear etched deeply into his features as he confronted a horrifying image. The intruder standing defiantly at the edge of the aisle, flanked by his menacing companions. "Stop! This court is in session," the judge commanded, but his authority had diminished in the wake of terror. "No, it's not," the intruder replied coolly. "It's a dead end. You have something valuable, and I'm here to collect it." The crowd erupted into shouts of panic, the sound folding over itself in a tidal wave of fear. The bailiffs fumbled with their weapons, unease lingering in the air like a mist. "Everyone, we need to leave," Adrian shouted again. His heart thundered as he wheeled himself closer to Rex, who growled fiercely, ready to spring. "Run!" he encouraged the spectators, desperation filling his voice. The bailiffs moved to escort the crowd out, but were met with hostility. Adrian looked back at the intruder, whose smirk had faded into a look of disdain. "Trying to avoid the inevitable will only make it worse," the intruder sneered, eyeing Adrian and Rex. "No!" Adrian shouted, feeling the weight of defiance grow within him. "You want Rex. You'll have to kill me first. Your bravery is admirable but foolish," the intruder replied, a glint of menace in his eyes. "This is bigger than you think. You have no idea what you're getting involved in." Before Adrian could respond, the intruder motioned, and the two figures advanced, weapons raised. Time seemed to freeze, and adrenaline coursed through Adrian's veins. Suddenly, Rex charged forward, lunging at the nearest figure with an unfaltering ferocity. A shot rang out, echoing through the courtroom, but Adrian didn't know who had fired. All he felt was the need to protect Rex at all costs as he wheeled himself closer. "Back away!" the larger bailiff shouted, but confusion reigned as the gunfire deafened them. In the chaos, down the dimly lit hallway, the figure who had been the face of danger, the intruder, slipped out with an ominous warning. "This isn't over, Wolf. You're in over your head." With the chaos of the courtroom still unfolding, Adrian would not be intimidated. "Come back," he called desperately, even as his heart sank with dread. As the remaining figures hastened to flee, the bailiffs began clearing the crowd. Adrian, heart racing, persisted. He was determined. Whatever this was, whatever game they were playing, he would uncover it. He'd fight to protect his family. As the room returned to more familiar chaos, fear mixed with confusion. Adrian and Rex had survived this confrontation, but deep within him, a realization began to bloom. The skirmish was merely the first chapter in a greater story that threatened to unravel their lives. "Rex," Adrian said, leaning down to scratch his partner behind the ears, "this is just a beginning. They'll come for us again, but we'll be ready." In the silence that followed, boldness ignited a spark within them. They would prepare. They would fight. No matter what danger awaited them in the shadows, they wouldn't back down. Their bond was unbreakable, and together they would face whatever darkness lay ahead. And thus, the battle against the unseen elements of their past began, a quest for truth that would weave through deception, danger, and revelation, turning the courtroom into a battleground for their survival. Adrian knew they weren't just fighting for a dog. It was a fight for loyalty, and it was a fight he would win.